Hello guys, welcome back. We are picking up this video right where the last one ended. So if you haven't seen the last video, I will leave it linked for you because we painted the walls in the most beautiful tone. It's so much calmer in here. And I started painting our fireplace in black mocha, which is gonna give it so much warmth and depth, I feel. It's like the dark brown. This is just like a first coat situation. This is where I left you. Hi, welcome back. I feel like I'm having a hard time kind of like getting into this area next to the grate, the fireplace grate. So of course I looked inside and found the screws. So I'm gonna remove it to make it easier on myself. Probably not gonna be the cleanest thing I've ever done. We should honestly replace that fiberglass, that insulation, because it looks like it's been around for a while. Okay, that'll allow me to get back in there. I don't want to completely move it off because I feel like Kinsley will try and go up the chimney. I'm pretty sure this is going to take 2 coats at least, just because we're going from like something that was pure white, so I considered that primer, to something really dark. So dark color paints usually need more than 1 coat. We're gonna see if it needs any touch-ups, but the fireplace looks like dark chocolate and you like want to take a bite out of it. It actually makes the brass pop so much. All 4 kind of these elements coming together with the brick little hearth and the floor trimmed out with the brass fireplace screen with the dark black mocha paint and then the sculptor clay wall color, it gives such a beautiful, like calming, moody without being like super dark feeling. That's what this gives me. That was project 1 to tackle in this space. Next, we started our 4-day journey of stripping and restoring our 90-year-old beams. Now there were layers of paint on them. When I tested them last week, I knew that there were just a couple of layers, but I knew it was a project I could dive into and it was going to be easier than past stripping projects, or so I thought. The first 2 days were really just about testing. It's like what materials and what process was going to be the easiest and most efficient and easiest on our bodies to accomplish stripping all of the paint and old stain off of these beams. And we were doing it inside, so I knew I didn't want to use anything really harsh smelling, really any harsh chemicals, because this is inside our house. We're living here, we sleep here. The citrus stripper works pretty well, and I've used it a couple of times, but I've never had, with any stripper, I've never had great success with it stripping the multiple layers of paint like they say. It's always been really good on like a surface level, like, 1 or 2 layers. And I've left it a long time, I've wrapped it, I've left it a short period of time, I've used different tools. I personally have never had success. I've always known going into projects that I would have to do at least 2 coats. I also tried a heat gun, but it takes too much time. You have to stand there, heat up the paint, let it bubble, and then scrape it, and it smells like burnt paint. Like it was gonna make our house smell like burnt paint, and that was not what I wanted. So after 2 days of trial and error, we found a rhythm and discovered, you know, the best way to strip all the paint from the beams.
Wow, that's so satisfying.
Yes.
That is beautiful.
And then you just sand a little bit here.
So the first step, we added a very generous layer of citrus strip. Like, do not be shy. Add it on, cake it on. We added that to all 3 sides, and then I actually covered it with plastic wrap so that it would stay wet for many, many hours, and especially overnight, because I feel like I get the best result that way. So next, when that was done and that sat overnight, we used a flat metal scraper to scrape the first layer. And it really looked like it was a layer of paint and a layer of stain. It was multiple for sure. So we were left with this like beige color paint, so it looked like, and it was really kind of baked in and set into like the grooves of the beams, because these were raw beams at one time and they had a lot of indentation and grooves. So once the first layer of paint in this darker color was off, we applied another generous layer of stripper to the beams for just about an hour, just enough for me to put it on. Like, I started in one corner and I got to the other corner, put it all on, and I started over. So that was about an hour just to loosen up the paint inside the grooves. Then we entered the phase of using lots of different more abrasive tools to get the paint and whatever this was out of the grooves of the beams. I had this larger flat wire brush that really worked well on larger like surfaces, and I had a smaller version of that that helped me get close to like the edges, like up to the ceiling and stuff. But all of like those two, it was really hard on my body. Like, Romeo and I were having to scrub with our arms. This wasn't like down on the ground. This was on a 6-foot ladder with our arms raised above our head. So it took a toll for sure. I also found these wire brush bits that you could put on your drill, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna save my body so much. I'll just be able to, you know, do it like faster. What I found with these wire brushes is that it actually gave more texture. It started to take some of the wood away along with the paint. In our situation, we really wanted it to be, you know, really textured, so it was fine. But I didn't use it the whole time. I would just use it on really like stubborn parts around like knots and things, or places where I just couldn't get it off by hand with the wire brush. But it was also a really good tool to have. The key with the wire brushes is that you have to continuously be scraping off the paint and the citrus stripper from the wire bristles, because otherwise you're just moving the paint and the goo around. Even through this process, I found that around the knots and the places where there were heavy grooves inside the beams, they had actually filled them with some kind of material. It could have been joint compound or putty, so that when they painted them, it was really smooth. That broke my heart. I was like, wow, they just really wanted to rip the detail away from these beams. I was chipping away, trying to get it out of all of the grooves. Finally, last night, we finished. My whole body is sore, but we did it. And they look so good. So much so that after spending all of these days stripping everything off of these beams, I had to get everything out of this room. All of the paper that was so disgusting. This was by far the messiest, most disgusting DIY I've ever done, because it's above your head and all that goop is like dropping. It's dropping all over the floors. It's all over your hands. I was in disgusting clothes, the same pair of disgusting clothes for days because I didn't want to mess anything up. Oh, it was wild, but I needed to get all of that paper out of the room so that I could see the raw beams with the floor color, the fireplace color, the paint color, the stairs. I needed to see all of the elements together, because I needed to be really sure that I wanted to stain these at all or leave them raw, or I needed to pick the right stain color. So my original plan was to match the beams to the dining room, because that's what they were. What I assume was original, because there's no paint on them at all, and it's just stained, and it is a darker, deeper color, but you can still see all the wood grain. And I love the depth and I love the moodiness, and so I just wanted to be really sure that I was going to match those. So now that I am seeing the beams in their raw state, the tone of them is too light. It fights the floor color, which is oak, and then we've got this dark happening here, and we have the darker oak stairs. It's too light, which now makes total sense why in this house they had originally stained them super dark. So we're doing it. We're still gonna see the wood grain. I know, because I've already tested it over there, and it looks fantastic. plastics. So anytime I stain anything that I need a super dark coverage, I know that I'm gonna have to go with a gel stain. Now this is limited in color. So I looked at all the colors that they had, and this Kona color was perfect. It had still the warmth and the dark. So it was going to match those other ones really, really well. I love them. I love them, I love them, I love them. I love them. I love them. Look at the detail, look at the wood grain. All the days that we spent taking off those layers of paint were so worth it. You just cannot get this wood grain with paint. I love them dark. And right now they look pretty contrasty because the ceiling is still white. I knew that this was going to be messy, so I needed to do this first. Finish them, you know, like sand them, like it was going to be really hard on the ceiling. Now we can go back in and paint the ceiling. So that's our next step, but this is literally epic. I've been wanting to do this since we had originally seen this house. I'm like, ooh, strip those beams. You know, I said, when we saw it, I was like, strip those beams, replace that sink. Well, we replaced the sink really quickly after moving in because that was necessary. And then I knew the beams were gonna be a lot more work, so we are taking them room by room, but we have 4 more substantial ones and then just 2 small ones in our bathroom if we wanna do those, and then the other 2 are already done. We are taking them room by room. This is epic. I can't wait for Romeo. Romeo just drove up. I can't wait for him to see them stained because we both spent so much time on this.
Oh, they look nice.
Wow, they look nice. Before I go ahead and start trimming out painting the ceiling, I'm gonna go ahead and prime the arches because I got them all kind of perfect. I went through and like sanded. I did a combination of like dry sand and wet sand to get all of the, you know, like just joint compound like perfect. But once it's primed, if I see any more imperfections, I can go ahead and do a little more before I paint. So I want to do this first. I'm just going to use the Zinsser primer, the blue one. That's the water base, not the shellac. Romeo also said I did a good job of venting the smell from the stain. It's an oil, anytime you use oil-based stain, it's really stinky. And so you don't really want that to stay in your house. So I used the fan to suck it outside, and I opened the door so that it was just like really well ventilated. And he said it doesn't smell in here at all. I'm gonna keep venting it out all day, just to make sure it's really out. Okay, now I'm gonna paint the ceiling. I'm gonna edge it first, get really close, you know, to the beam so that I just like to do that by hand. I taped off this room and I realized I'm just better at doing it by hand. That's why I love these like short little brushes. It's almost like I don't know, like a pencil or something. Is dry now. I want to show you what I found. Romeo's finishing painting the ceiling because I don't think I can like look up anymore at anything. I'm gonna have to look down. It's a good thing we're going to the flea market tomorrow so that I can just look down at stuff instead of up. Can't do any more projects over my head anytime soon. Remember how we've been doing these arches and trimming them out, and I took off the collar. So I was like, it's just not working. It's not the vibe. It's something about it was off. Lowe's tends to have more trim work. I just wanted to go see what they had. And I found like a little decorative piece that I was trying in the center here. For the life of me, cannot find it. We don't know, in the midst of all this projects, we don't know where it went. But I did find this. Now this is for crown molding. Look at it, look at its shape. Look, like, isn't this exactly what I was trying to build? Now the one that I built, my initial like test run, was a lot longer. It wasn't what I wanted, but I wanted to see if I could figure it out. But see how this tapers down like this? You can add to this. That's what I'm kind of thinking. If we liked the idea of adding anything, it was going to be on the inside, right at where it comes down and it comes to straight like that. What are the odds that I would go to the hardware store and find this in the exact width that I needed it? That was kind of weird. I had never thought that. And then we could add like a top and then some more like trim work to it. It doesn't stick out too far. Like, I don't know how much more perfect of a size I could get if this is something that we love. And then I would have to build this in more. Like, does it come out too far? That was always my worry. Pretty cool, and they're already made. That's a huge plus.
I'm okay without it.
You're okay without it? Romeo's okay without it.
I feel like I hit my head right there.
Come show me how you would come hit your head. I can't imagine. It's anyone thinking that it would be intrusive, you know, like you would hit. Watch how close he would have to be to the wall.
MaCenna, I'll be in the kitchen. I'll be in the kitchen. Just like that.
You'd have to walk into the whole wall.
But I run into walls.
Okay, come out from the kitchen. Come out from the kitchen. Come out from the kitchen, and you come and run into this.
Come here, Kinsley. Come here, Kinsley. Come here, Kinsley. Boom. Like that.
Where? You didn't boom.
Well, I don't want to actually do it, but...
Admit that you could never run into this.
I probably will at least once.
Okay, so you don't like getting...
No, I don't mind it at all. No, I don't. I like it.
Wait, but for real, I really want to know, will you actually get this close to the wall where you would run into this? I feel like you'd run into the fireplace before you would run into this.
Probably right.
There's no way. It's even above my head. Like, look. It's taller than me. It's taller than you too.
A little bit.
He's just being hard-headed. Painting ceilings and doing things over your head is literally the worst. It's just so hard on your shoulders and your neck, like, you know, constantly looking up. This has been such a fun room to make over because I've really been just taking my time and giving each aspect of the room and each project the attention and the time that it deserves, and stripping the beams and bringing them back and restoring them to their original wood is major. I've been looking forward to this since we moved in and even looked at the house. I love them. I love how they turned out. I love that now they match the other ones in the house. And now as we travel through the house doing renovations and makeovers room by room, we can get all the rooms to be really, really cohesive and really consistent. But this was major. We are now to the point where we have the foundation, the beams, the arches are almost there, the painting done, the fireplace done, and now we can decorate and work on the kind of stair wall. So next week will be the final episode. I'm gonna give my neck a rest for a few days and then dive into decorating. I wanna do some really fun things. I wanna do like a gallery wall, move all of the furniture, you know, back into place. I got some new things that if you followed me over my blog, you did see one of the new things that I got for this room. So go check it out if you haven't already. We are gonna keep painting and put the finishing touches on the foundation of the room and things, and I will see you guys again next Sunday. Bye guys. Come on kids. She didn't get to be part of this DIY this time. It was too messy. Bye guys.